Andy, couldn't you have more of a twinkle in your eye like your father?
More twinkle.
Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, 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 maybe, but yes.
Welcome back to another episode of Podcast 43. I'm your host, Chris Borg, and I'm joined by...
co-host Fulton Collins, and me and Chris are joined by...
co-host co-host Cody Workman. Sorry, I'm on repeat mode.
Yeah.
and we were supposed to get our friend Andy Hardy on the mic, but he got a stomach ache and he has to lie down right now because he couldn't he wasn't in the best shape to talk, unfortunately.
He's also really old. Believe it or not.
Incredibly old.
Incredibly old.
He's
and he's got so many women always crawling around him, even at an old age, you know.
They had to kick him out of the old folks home because
I love that you use the word crawling because he's so small. You have to go down and literally crawl.
Well, going down is something that, you know,
maybe I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a yeah. Y'all ever see King of the Hill? You know, like the TV show. He like, I imagine they got Hank's dad, you know, modeled after Andy Hardy. Like there's just no way.
They're the same
There's no
height.
way they did not have that in the back of their head.
Well, Andy Hardy does go to war in the subsequent films, I think. Is that right?
I can't wait.
Or no, I don't know.
No, you're right.
Okay, yeah. I thought I wasn't dreaming that. So I hope he doesn't get his kneecaps blown off like Hank Hill's dad.
Dad, Mr. Hill. It's possible.
I guess we'll know in a few short episodes.
Yeah, but as far as these films that we're focusing on, we focused on 1941's Andy Hardy's Private Secretary and Life Begins for Andy Hardy from 1941 as well. Both directed by George B. Seitz. Surprise, surprise. The King.
I'll do it again.
Andy Hardy is his Transformers. Michael Bay, like Michael Bay, you know, he shaped and sculpted how we think about the Transformers films. George B. Seitz created how we think about Andy Hardy. So,
right. But the only difference is it's literally like 4 times the length of the Transformers series.
Yes, but
he really just went crazy.
But when you think about it, if you add together the lengths of the Transformers movies, which
That's
are long
true.
as hell,
the minutes, it's probably. I still bet you Andy Hardy wins, but it's probably closer than what we would think.
Yeah, because those early Andy Hardys were like, 70 minutes. Because they were short. The movies were shorter back in the 30s for the most part. So, yeah. But
like Gone with the Wind.
Like Gone with the Wind, a very short film. Well, Andy Hardy's Private Secretary, though. What do we think about this one, fellas?
It's an interesting one because this is the Andy Hardy's finally graduating high school. It does
after 9,
feel
10, 11 movies.
Yes. After how many? It feels like he has been in high school for just so long. But you got to remember these movies. There's so many of these movies coming out in the same year, so it's not like it's not like, I don't know, when you watch like Phineas and Ferb, you're like, okay, like come on, guys, like this show has been on the air for like 9 years. How are they still in summer vacation?
That was such a random reference.
I'm not sure why that came into my head, but it's not like that. It's like there's like 4 movies a year, but I guess it makes sense. It's it's the same, the same age, but it is. We from what I read in our group chat, I think I like this one a little more than the two of you. The story is basically that, graduation's coming up. Andy Hardy is the class president. He's in charge of basically tasking everyone with things to do to support graduation. Finals are coming up. Andy Hardy is an incredibly busy man. He's basically in charge of everything. All of like literally any task you can think of has been put on him for graduation. There is a family with two children who are also graduating. I guess are they twins? I was a little confused by this. Like, are
would
they just
ass-
like 9 months apart, or it's not mentioned that they're twins, but they're
I
in the
ca-
same grade.
I would assume they're twins, but yeah, it's never like implied if
I
like
I
who's
would I
older or what.
assumed they were twins as well. It's kind of interesting. But these two kids we've never seen before are alerted to Judge Hardy because at the start of the film, Andy Hardy writes a check that bounces back because he does not have enough funds in his account for graduation. Turns out the check that was written from this family did not go through, and so Judge Hardy and Andy Hardy pay a visit. Um, I am I literally watched this movie 2 days ago, and I cannot remember their names for the life of me. This is why I need to bring my notepad with me when we record.
I also
Yeah, I
don't
literally
remember their name.
wasn't it
Hold on. We just need their last name.
the
The
Land family.
Land. Oh,
Yeah,
what a
that's
good
right.
name. So the Land family. And basically they get there. These are family. This is a family who's very underprivileged. They don't have a telephone. Their father works as a guard for the local mechanic. It's become instantly clear when Andy Hardy walks in that these two kids have been treated horribly in school because of their class and like social class, not the actual. I mean, I guess the class is oppressing the class. You know what I mean. And what's interesting is that the father of these kids is actually like a genius. Like he speaks 9 languages and has incredible experience, but has somehow
He's a
landed
craftsman
here.
too.
Yeah,
Like extremely
craftsman.
adaptable.
Yeah, he's fallen
Very
on hard
adaptable.
times, which is
He's
they don't
fallen on
really
hard
go
times.
into it. I think it had something
Yeah,
to do
I
with the
don't know.
war. I think it's world like he like
That's
fled Europe because of World War II. I think that's what he
is what it
said.
sounds like, but it
Yeah.
sounds like he's British, which is
Yeah,
like,
that confused me too.
Well, yeah,
yeah,
but
and
what do you mean? I mean, like the Blitzkrieg and stuff. Or are you saying like why is he getting a job with the State Department if he's British?
well, yeah, but also like, I mean, why? I guess he's fleeing for like his kids who don't
Yeah.
have British accents. I
Sure.
actually, I think I kind of well. Let me finish this because I have a reading on these kids that is pretty interesting. They, you know, basically become part of the graduation committee because of Judge Hardy's instructions. Judge Hardy works very hard to get father a job, takes him under his wing. It's all, sweet. The girl becomes Andy Hardy's secretary. The boy gets the hardest job ever of decorating the graduation, which sounds pretty easy to me. And things happen there. There's a lot of very, standard high school drama that's not especially interesting, but not really offensive. I think the interesting part of this film is what Andy Hardy ends up doing to the family and how the Land family is portrayed in this particular movie. I mean, Andy Hardy really does become the villain of this story in a way that we haven't really seen him become yet. I'm not saying he's ill-intentioned, but his selfishness gets to such a point that it is just like it is pretty shocking. I know that's kind of why you two didn't really like the movie.
Yeah.
I wanted to say this about the Land kids though. I kind of suspected that the mother of them was South American and that perhaps this is a very extreme reading. There is a sort of racial component to the way they are treated at school that plays into their class standing and why the father's not able to succeed in Idaho. We don't really get a lot of mention of the mother of the land kids,
Yeah.
which just had me kind of project this whole storyline onto there. But it made the movie a lot more interesting to me, and it made me think, oh well, this could actually be a pretty maybe not progressive, but socially aware movie for the time, and certainly makes some of the motivations a little more fascinating and layered than they would be if it was just, oh, they don't have a telephone. But I mean, it can just be that. I'm not saying that doesn't make sense, but I do think this might explain some of the issues as to why Mr. Land is just unable to pick himself up in the
Mhm.
economy.
Well, I mean, I think that is a pretty good point. I mean, as far as like an interesting reading of the film is concerned, and you're right, that does add a completely different layer that I didn't even consider. However, I will say that like there's really no implication that this is the case. Like I feel like you'd have to do like a lot of inferring.
You have to do an extreme amount, which
Like an
which is what I'm
extreme.
doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, I don't know. I guess we could all wish that, Andy Hardy was a little more socially, or the Andy Hardy films were a little more socially aware. But, this is the same franchise that, created a character named Tahula that from Tahiti and got a bunch of, high school kids to play native people in a not very progressive manner. And I just think that I just don't see it there. I
was
I guess-
curious what your
Yeah.
evidence
Yeah.
was for the
Well,
South American. I was just curious.
so I think it's just like he makes such a point. I understand he was like a travel agent or some sort of travel advisory person,
Mhm.
but he really emphasizes the South American dialect that he has, and like
specifically Brazil, because he speaks
Brazil,
Portuguese.
Yeah.
Portuguese. Yes, he
Yeah.
speaks. He really emphasized Portuguese. And at the end of the film, the young land girl is speaking Portuguese to Judge Hardy, which obviously she probably learned from her father and that sort of thing. But I'm just thinking, like, why is he teaching his children Portuguese if he knows 9 languages? What is this the one? And I know it's like, well, people could say, well, he just got the job in Brazil. Well, she's not going to learn Portuguese in a day. Like she clearly is speaking with some competency to Judge Hardy in that particular moment. And then it's just the kind of the lack of Mrs. Land, like the lack of the mom kind of being talked about makes you go, well, like, who could she have been? Why is she out of the picture? Also, why would they end up in Idaho? Which also, I mean, we're going to get to this with the next film. There is no way these films are actually set in Idaho.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
Yeah, like
100% not.
I gotta go back to New York. I gotta go back to New York.
Just a drive.
They go to New York so much. This is clearly upstate New York. Like it is. Like there's no way that this is not. I think at this point, maybe it started as Idaho. Carvel has moved coast. It is
They
not.
picked up the town and they moved it.
They
It
literally
moves with
moved
the
it.
tides, just slowly creeping up
Yeah.
Northeast America.
It's wild. But that was just that was what I was thinking and what I had thought about while watching the movie. It occurred to me, and it made the film more interesting to view it in that lens.
Well,
Because you also, I mean, look at how Polly reacts to her. Like Polly is, I mean, she's always jealous. She's always like upset at Andy, but she seems even more upset than usual. And yes, it is because she's, not as wealthy or in high standing, but there could be a other component there that is kind of hidden.
I do think though that like this Andy Hardy especially, or I could say the last Andy Hardy film as well, Andy Hardy Meets Debutante, are two that feel very in line with the milieu of the like New Deal era. Like I feel like they're both much more conscious of class than the other films were, and I did at least appreciate that from this one and the last one. Like they go out of their way to highlight that like this family has fallen on hard times. They're not doing well financially, but that doesn't mean that like they don't enjoy like opera. You know, it just shows that they're like, I don't know, there's more to them than just being, you know, impoverished. And so I will say that I like that component of this film, even if I didn't really like the actual film overall, because I found Andy to be just so incredibly unlikable. Like,
well, I was gonna just to add on to the whole with them being focused on class. I think of this one as kind of like the inverse of Meets a Debutante, where like the roles are reversed, where now he's in the higher class position than the other person. So I thought that was interesting that these two follow after each other and then immediately switch Andy into the opposite role. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And on top of that, you also have Andy. I guess Cody didn't entirely go into like what Andy does, or we haven't gone into what Andy does, but essentially Judge Hardy tries to help out the Land family by giving Mr. Land a really good job with the State Department, because he calls up Washington and tells them, I know somebody that can speak, you know, like 9 languages and could be a really great translator and a valuable asset to South American relations specifically. And they offer him a job, but he has to start on Thursday, or they have to leave to go to South America on Thursday, and graduation is the day after. And Andy gets really sad because that means that the Land kids are going to miss out on their graduation, and they need to send a telegram to the State Department to confirm that they're getting picked up on that they're leaving on Thursday, and
to expedite the passports.
Yeah, to expedite the passports, and Andy says, I'll take care of that. I'll send out the telegram. I don't want to get pedantic, but like, I'm sorry guys, but I love you guys dearly. You're some of my closest friends, but if I have information when it comes to expediting passports and I'm sending a telegram, or I would do that on my own just to make sure and see it through and make sure that I got like confirmation.
Well, I guess that's the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
If we can't trust each other with passport information, then what are we doing this for?
Where do I stop recording?
Yeah, how do we shut down Chris's computer?
Yeah. But so Andy gets this
valid
telegram.
Point, though, Chris. Valid point.
Like
for the people in this story.
Like Andy gets this telegram and he crosses out Thursday and he puts Saturday in pencil and tells the person at Western Union, like, okay, like make sure to make these corrections to the telegram message that was typed out. And then Mr. Land ends up not getting the job because of this confusion. And of course, Andy has to own up to it. He has to go man to man with Judge Hardy and tell him, and he doesn't get the job at the end. He has to get another job that the governor of Idaho or wherever they live gives to him, because he happens to be at their graduation. And so it's like,
right,
he didn't really learn his lesson, I don't feel like.
Yeah. No, you're right. And well, I was also going to say the real reason why Andy Hardy does this is not because he's sad they're going to miss their graduation. He needs them to be on the committee to get their jobs done. he has gotten used to her as the secretary doing all the work that he was supposed to do, and he is now relying on the land boy to deliver the decorations for graduation. Now, what we haven't mentioned yet is there's a very interesting thing that develops in the back part of the film where Andy has to take an English final. And had we Aunt Millie is the English teacher in
It's the first
the
time I
the
think
film.
we've seen
I
that.
don't think I think I maybe
She
might
mentions
have
that she's a teacher. Like
she
it's come up.
mentions it,
Yeah.
Mm,
yes, but I don't think we've seen her in action till this film. And she's
mm.
the English teacher, and everyone in the grade passes this exam except one, and that's Andy Hardy. Andy Hardy does not pass the English exam because he's been too busy working on the graduation, whatever. And because he doesn't pass, that means he cannot graduate. And so this adds an entirely new level. He's going to have to, retake 12th grade or whatever. And then they find the land kids are actually the ones who find a little clause that says a teacher is allowed to give a student another chance on a final exam if they have shown that they were a good student up until that point. And so they talk to the principal and they decide, you know what, we're going to let Andy redo it. The land kids and Polly stay up with him all night, teaching him English, I guess. But it's so weird because it's been very clear throughout this whole series that Andy Hardy is a pretty smart kid. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry, like I know English isn't for everyone, but it's not, most people can get, a D in English. Like it's,
Yeah.
I think I
Well,
was listening to some of those questions at the end. I was like, I think you could get like,
And
you could probably pass this course.
and it's also established that Polly just does not like Catherine Land at all.
mhm.
And yet she's like willing to be in the same room with her on behalf. I
Well,
don't
for
know.
Andy,
For Andy,
yeah.
I know, but
Like,
still it's like, you know.
I guess what confused me was like when he explains to his dad, not unless he was just lying to Judge Hardy, but it wasn't the fact that he didn't know the information. It was just that he kept thinking about graduation. He was like, well, when I would see like the questions, I would just see like A was cap and gowns and B was white pants or khaki pants or whatever. So then I was a little like, not to be too nitpicky, but I just thought it was established that he knew what to do. He just like was so
Yeah, he got
sidetracked, and I was
distracted. Yeah.
confused. I
Right.
was like,
Yeah, because
I
then
don't
when
even know
he's
why we're
when
doing
when they're
this.
when they're studying with him, he doesn't know anything.
Yeah, no,
Like he just
his face is all red, his hair's all fucked
it's
up,
actually
and
it's a pretty funny scene. I
it
kind of
is.
like that scene.
I do
I,
want y'all to know that one of my notes that I wrote was Aunt Millie is cold hearted. I mean, to not even give the boy a
to not
D.
even give him a D.
Her own blood.
I know.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
know.
dude, everyone. Yeah, that's crazy. That was crazy. Have y'all
Mhm.
ever failed a test like that? Like to a point where like, I mean, I've never had like a relative be in a position, I guess, to like grade final grades. But it's like I was
Mm.
just thinking like, how could you do so well in a class and then just completely bomb the final?
Mhm. I've never done
Sorry to
Gradu-
put you
that.
all on the spot. I've never
Graduation,
like
Yeah, I've never been in that position.
Yeah.
that's such a like and like it wasn't like he was cheating or like he just straight up did not know English. Like it's like he went through the entire year with like an A, and then how could that happen? I'm
I mean,
sorry.
not
That's
unless
just
they've changed things, but I think grading doesn't work like that. I think if you have an A, I mean, if you have an A in a class, and typically if you bomb the final, you're still probably gonna
you're
be
still gonna
fine.
pass, right?
But
Yeah,
I
you'll
don't
be
know if
I don't
fine.
that
know if it was
well,
different back then.
remember, I mean, what were those I don't know if you all had these in high school, but there were those like tests where like if you didn't fail or if you didn't pass them, you straight up
Oh,
failed. They were
I
like
know like
statewide testing. What was that called?
they had AP testing,
Well,
but
yeah, no,
that
I'm not.
you still got the
No,
credit for the
I'm talking. I'm talking
class.
about
But
those. Do you remember these tests? Did your high schools have this where it's like every high school in Georgia had to take these tests?
The
What was that?
Gmod or whatever.
The GMAT? Now, yes, maybe
oh
that was
yeah,
it.
I forgot about
Maybe
that.
those were them. I'm trying to
But I
remember,
thought
but
that
it was like,
I thought they were gonna do that, and then it like kind of backfired though. I don't know. I
so
feel
I
like
remember. I remember one year they didn't count them. I don't know why, because I guess some schools' systems went down or something.
Well,
But
everyone thought it was Gary's mod, so they got to class and they're like, "Dude,
Gmod.
yeah,
GMod.
damn."
Oh,
Anywho,
and well, Fulton, I thought you would have been happy to see Judge Hardy in his top hat in this one.
that was
in
a
Andy.
nice. That was a great bit. That the ending bit with the top hat and the car route. That's at the end of this one, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing that I
Yeah.
want to talk about that makes it even worse is the fact that Andy Hardy was so horrible to people in this film,
Yeah.
and he still gets his brand new car as a graduation present at the
A
end.
shiny that he gets to customize.
Yeah, he gets to pick
as
out what
well.
seats he wants, and he gets the
Another
convertible.
seat, so
he
boring.
gets the retractable motor roof or whatever. It automatically retracts with a button.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, God.
Well,
Judge Hardy did destroy that other car though.
He did.
yeah, I like
Yeah.
that scene too. I thought that was kind of a fun
Yeah, that
scene.
was a fun bit.
Yeah, with him and Mr. Land in that was good. That was
Yeah.
good.
I
I
love
swear
me
he takes the tires off this car every day.
I really
I-
do like that Andy Hardy's car says AH with an exclamation point on the side door. He monogrammed his car.
You know, I guess the modern equivalent to that is like putting your Instagram tag.
Yeah.
You know, like getting a sticker on your car. I was curious if because I could be misremembering, but I feel like this is the first time that Andy goes to his mom for advice. I could be mistaken or just not remembering, but I feel like this is the first time that they have like a son mother heart to heart, and we're in the place where there is a father son heart to heart in this one, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, his dad, Judge Hardy, gets really angry at Andy in this film. Like,
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
I've never seen him more angry at Andy. He
Yeah,
usually has.
no.
Most
I mean,
deserved
Andy's a
in this
little
one.
Andy's a little shit in this movie. Like he's
Yeah.
awful. He's like the
And-
worst of adolescents.
And funnily enough, both of these films that we're covering this week don't have Marion in them. She's absent from both films.
I
They
don't think
took
we're
the
gonna
Leonard
see her
Cohen
again.
approach.
I don't know.
So long, Marianne.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not gonna say Fulton, but I did peek at the cast list for the next few. So I'm not
Mhm.
gonna say what happens.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I really don't mind Marion as a character. It's just that they never did anything with her, and maybe they might do something with her. I
Yeah,
don't
well, they
know.
started to, and then it's like now at this point, it's just Andy Hardy's thing.
Yeah, it's just fizzled
Um,
out really with her
but-
story.
I mean, I like. Look, I know y'all like really disliked Private Secretary. I found it fine. I found it pretty much like I would say it's like treading water. You know, where like okay, he's graduated high school. That's important, I guess, to the story of Andy Hardy. I laughed at a decent bit. I didn't mind watching the film. I love that the land girl is also an opera singer. That was pretty interesting, and
Yeah.
I liked her. I mean, I liked the some of the chemistry between her and Andy Hardy, and I thought the land boy was pretty interesting. I thought the kid was great in terms of just articulating like what his problem is with Andy Hardy.
I wish
Yeah.
there
Kinda
was more
overcoming
of
all
their
these-
relationship,
Yeah,
because I did find that to be the most interesting.
you get a lot of the secretary with the land girl, but with the boy, you really don't get as much as you'd want
Mhm.
because it is kind of crazy that Andy Hardy's the most popular kid in school. Also, oh my gosh, we have to just very briefly touch on because I know we got to get to the other film. but the play that they are doing here is
Oh yeah.
we don't see the play. We see them rehearse the play, and I found it hilarious. I thought it was really, really funny. It's right before Millie breaks the news that Andy can't graduate.
It's a Greek
Um,
tragedy.
It is a Greek tragedy that it seems like Andy Hardy is putting on. And who is he? Is he Socrates or no,
Isn't
he's not Socrates.
He's a Greek
no,
god.
he's a Greek god. That's right. He's not, but he's
he's like who
not
is
Zeus. He's
isn't he like
er,
Dionysus or something?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Because he's like super old.
super old and he
Yeah,
has the
I think it
beard.
was, yeah.
It's so funny though. The way he comes out and he's delivering these ridiculous lines and everyone's laughing at him because they think he's so cute.
Mhm.
Don't we get a return of the Southern Belle in that scene, right?
Yeah, she's in that scene, so we get to see her. She comes
She's back.
back.
She's like, why you're so cute, Andy?
seriously,
I can't take you seriously. Yeah, it's
I was-
very funny.
I was quite happy that that she returned just for that one scene. It was a nice callback.
That was a really good, and the bit when he gets the like plus size woman to stand in front of the sign
Yeah.
that they have a statue on stage, but in order to get the statue they have to put out a sign of where they got the statue from so it can be free. And Andy Hardy's like, okay, I have an idea, and he gets the largest person he can find in the cast to just stand in front of the sign for he says the whole play. And she's like, "Where's my lines?" He's like, "Oh, just stand." So evil, but it's
Yeah.
pretty funny. There's
Yeah.
another evil thing Andy Hardy does, but I did laugh quite. That whole sequence is great, and the sequence the scene when he finds out that he's not graduating is pretty powerful. It's like it's a wake up call. But the ending is so like convenient, and it is just like, come on. Obviously, these people should go to Brazil. That's what they
wanted to do.
that's what they wanted to do. That would have been an amazing opportunity. The kids are literally not upset that they're missing graduation. Like that's not a thing that happens with them.
Yeah, they don't
So,
care. They're like, we're happy for our dad. Well, they'll just mail us our diplomas. Well,
I would much rather go to. If I could have moved to Brazil or attend my high school graduation,
yeah. Come on.
I'm taking Brazil. Come on.
You want to see Rio de Janeiro or you want to see the Carvel Auditorium?
Or do you want to wear off-white pants, pleated pants for graduation?
I saw it's a little weird that he buys her stockings.
Yeah,
and-
he buys
I
her
think
silk
Polly
stocking.
was rightfully she was right to be.
Why
That was a
couldn't-
little weird.
Didn't
to
he
me.
ask his mom if she could buy them, and she was like, "You can buy them."
Yeah,
right?
she was like,
that
she was
a-
like, it's the 40s. That was like
Like,
literally
oh.
what. That was like literally the excuse was like, it's it's the 40s. Of course you can buy a woman silk stockings.
I guess times have changed.
And then Andy, of course, gets caught buying her silk stockings because Polly is also shopping at the clothing store as Andy is trying to awkwardly purchase these silk stockings.
It's a great little bit.
I did like that bit.
Yeah, I did like it. It does have its positives, but I think it pales in comparison though to Life Begins for Andy Hardy, which is completely nuts. Like I think like of the Andy Hardy movies, it's like the most interesting to me. Like I don't think it's like the best by any means because it really does kind of not stick the landing at the end. But the plot is great because it takes place immediately after graduation. Like the day after his high school graduation, he talks to his dad and his dad tells him that he has a surprise for him and he wants him to meet him at noon the next day. And so it turns out that he's introducing him to his old college buddy that can get Andy into Judge Hardy's alma mater with a full ride to all the way up to law school. And Andy doesn't really know if he wants to follow in his dad's footsteps and become a lawyer. And he tells his dad, how about we make a deal? How about I can live on my own for a month in New York City and try to make it there, and if I don't, then I'll come crawling back to Carvel, and I'll go to law school with this full ride. And so,
which is a day's ride away.
yeah,
This
which
movie
is
sets
only a
up.
day's ride on the train from Idaho. So
There is no way that Carvel is in Idaho. I
well,
refuse to believe this.
because on top of that, so Betsy Booth, played by Judy Garland, is in this film. Unfortunately, it is her final Andy Hardy film, but
Mm.
she shows up because she's going back to visit to stay with her grandma for for summer, and she comes to Carvel. She's so excited to see Andy. It's all she's been thinking about. Andy has not been thinking about her in the same way, of course, because
He still thinks she's a child.
he still
She's a
thinks she's a child, which
And
is ridiculous because the relationship
yeah,
regresses compared to
exactly.
in Andy Hardy meets debutante. He's realized that she's not like a child, and like she's mature, and they have that great scene in the drawn carriage. But
He
now
literally leaves his date to be with her
yeah,
and meets a debutante. That's the bookmark. That's the ending of the film.
and so she comes back to stay with her grandmother, and she's saying excited to see Andy, and Andy decides to go to New York, and he's like, well, Betsy will help me out because she lives in New York. And she's like, all right, I'm gonna go to New York. And she like just got to Carvel. Like she came from New York to what we assume is Idaho, and then like what about her grandmother? Poor Betsy's grandmother. She was probably so excited to see her granddaughter, and now she's just leaving her behind to go back to New York City. But yes, Andy and Betsy drive to New York City, which I also thought was weird because having a car in New York is such a like important part of the plot of this and how much of a roadblock it is. And there's clearly direct train service from New York to Idaho. So why did he take a car in the first place? Because he ends up like not using it because he has to like put it in a garage and pay a bunch of money in the story. But anyways, Andy tries to make it in New York and tries to find a job, and he really learns a lot of important life lessons along the way. So let's delve into Life Begins for Andy Hardy and what you guys thought about it.
I did find it funny how like the opening of all the Andy Hardy films are the same. It's the same photo of the Hardy family, and they have not updated it.
Yeah.
And we're like on like the what's this, like the 12th film or
Yeah, I guess
something? Or
they only updated it to get rid of that other
Mary.
sister,
Yeah.
The other sister, the older sister.
the older sister that's only in a family affair.
I do like there's the classic man to man, father to son talk that they have, and Andy says like the next 10 years of my life will be the best, and Judge Hardy says all men say that at every age. I thought that was kind of a nice thing. Yeah, just like this movie has such a weird pacing. I think Chris, you've kind of brought that up. Um in because it all goes down in our GC. So I think you brought that up in the group chat.
Yeah.
But like really the pacing is so weird because he like debates law school for like what maybe seems like maybe a day, and then he's like, oh, I have an idea, I'll move to New York, and I shit you not, he drives immediately to New York. Like
Mhm.
like it's insane. And then once he's in New York, I obviously a lot happens that we'll delve into. And we meet a lot of characters.
Well, when you get to the denouement of the film,
Mhm.
you're like, okay, this has been a very good movie. Or I at least I thought that it was very good, very strong. And then you check well, by golly, I have 30 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah, these two are also, I think we mentioned it in last episode, but they're both clock 1 hour and 41 minutes, which definitely makes it stretches these films a bit longer than I think what they probably need to be. I mean, because
Yeah.
we've gone from as short as like what 70 minutes to the normal about 90 minutes where these films normally sit.
Yeah,
And
88 to like 93 minutes is the typical.
yeah, and so then like these films start to balloon here. I think the longest one is an hour 47. So it's not the longest we've had yet. But like I don't know if I don't know. This one's a little, I guess where I'm positioned with these two films is I really like the string from Spring Fever, Love Laughs, and Debutante, I think. I really enjoy, oh no, sorry, Judge Hardy and Son and Meets a Debutante. I really enjoyed those three. And just something about like Private Secretary and Life Begins, like the energy feels kind of deflated to me. Like there feels like there's a tired aura around both these films to me. I don't know if I'm just personally getting, I don't know.
I agree with you to certainly with Private Secretary. It does feel like we're like, okay, we don't really know what to do. I think Life Begins for Andy Hardy is a pretty interesting one. It reminded me of Spring Fever for obvious reasons
Yeah.
because it does involve an older woman who is
Yeah.
kind of grooming Andy Hardy.
Mhm.
But
taking
he
advantage
is
of
an
him.
adult though. He is 18.
He is 18. He is
Yeah.
18. I mean, but she is okay, she's not grooming him, but she is taking advantage of him.
Yeah,
And
but don't you think that angle's a little sexist though to her character? Like I feel like the way that they kind
well,
of
yeah, she definitely is just treated as a gold digger, like
yeah.
just straight up. And she, I mean, look, it's a 1941 movie, Chris. Of course, it's going to be a bit sexist.
Yeah.
The woman who lives independently and can make her own money also just happens to like be the worst person in the world.
Yeah.
Is like I kind of saw that coming, but I kind of like just how unapologetically like dark that last scene gets with her taking him into the room and literally straight up implying they're gonna have sex. Like that's like what
Yeah.
happens in that scene before her husband walks in, which is crazy to me that's where the movie gets.
That's not even
There's
the
a
darkest
lovely
moment.
it's no, not even close because we haven't even touched on the other
Oh
character
my
here.
gosh.
Which is insane where they take that. I think my favorite scene though in this might be between Polly and Andy early on, where they break up. So they break up like it's straight up a break up in this movie. It's not like they're going on a break or they are going to, oh, I'm going away for 2 weeks and you get to have fun with Lana Turner. Like, no, they are like basically saying it's over. It was a high school thing. They talk about how they're going to tell their future spouses about one another and how they were the sweetest person there ever was before this and that it's a very it's not especially funny. It's pretty sweet
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel in any way menacing. It feels like a very like genuine like life. Our lives are going completely different ways, and this isn't going to work. And
Yeah.
it's
I did like that scene. I
and
will
I
admit.
think it's handled really well. I've been thinking about that scene quite a bit. I started this film fairly late at night, and I was planning to like just watch about 30 minutes and then go to bed, and I got sucked in like almost immediately. Before I know it, it's like 2 a.m. and I've finished Andy Hardy. And it is just like there is something to this particular story of him going to New York. It is almost the first film, I think. I mean, there is still Judge Hardy and some of his I mean, he does have lines and scenes away from Andy Hardy, but this is the first film I think that it is entirely Andy Hardy's story. Like
Mm.
this
Mhm.
is pretty much him and him alone, and anything that happens is extremely about him. It's not about any of these other side characters. It is like anything that's happening in the movie is about Andy Hardy. It feels like the first it really does feel like the first time, to me at least in this series, where Andy Hardy is the pretty much sole focus of all the action in the movie.
Mhm.
Um there is, I mean, there's not even like you know, like you don't, none of these side characters really have much to do outside of Andy Hardy's story. Like it is all like, you know, there is no loose ends to tie with anybody else but Andy Hardy here. Like we don't really get closure on what happens to the groomer. I'm not even going to say her name. I'm kidding. I can't remember her name. That's why I'm not saying her name. Hold on. What
Um,
was her name?
it
Oh
was
gosh, we're terrible. This is my, you know, anytime people listen to this podcast, they're like, Cody just can't remember names. It's so true.
wasn't her name Janet
Um,
or no, Janet, yeah, Janet Hicks.
Janet Hicks, which is a pretty good 40s name, played by Patricia Dane. Oh man, you ever see The Harder They Fall? What a great
Oh,
movie.
No, I
Rod
haven't.
Steiger and Humphrey Bogart. Oh man, wow. Did not remember that she was in that. This is one of her top movies when you look at this. Wow.
Yeah, but she probably has
Um,
a pretty small role. Like I don't see her in the top of the cast. You got to hit
yeah,
show all. Yeah.
but she's
I did it.
Oh, I've
she no
wanted to
no, but
see I do it.
she's pretty good in this. I mean, she's eating up the scenery here.
Oh yeah, she's
And
great.
so, I
Yeah.
mean, how her character is introduced is Andy Hardy arrives in New York. He's getting set up at a it's a boys' home, right? Or like a home for
Yeah,
like a hostel.
it's like a boys' hostel. In
Yeah.
this, yeah.
And he instantly meets this guy named Jimmy, who is a dancer, who just quit his job to pursue
Amazing
dancing.
intro. I
Like
will be honest.
instantly, boom, boom. And then Andy's like, "Oh, you just quit your job? I'm gonna go to your job, your old job, and ask for your old job." And you know, that's how that introduces. He gets there. That's when he first meets Miss Hicks, Janet Hicks.
If I could
And
add something just super
yeah,
quick with Jimmy's intro, I swear to God, listen, it's a funny thing. I'm not trying to nitpick because I don't really care in the grand scheme of things. But when he's like, "All right, Artie, I'll see you later," I swear he just walks down the hall and they add like a tap, like he does like a
oh
weird
my
like bow-legged
gosh.
Yeah.
walk, but they're still doing the tap, like the
The
tap
tap
dance sound
dance.
effect, and
Yeah, it's
I was
so funny.
howling during
Yeah.
that moment. I
It
thought that
makes
was
it's so
great.
it's just out of pocket. Like it's
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah, because he's this like he's going to pursue his love of tap dancing.
Yeah. He's doing like the
Quit
John
his
Lennon walk
I
in
don't
that
got.
photo, if you know what I'm talking about, but it's
He's like
similar.
I don't have brains in my head. I have brains in my feet.
brains
Or
in my
something.
feet.
What a
Yeah,
line.
it's a
What a
great line.
line.
I like Jimmy. He's a good character in that first bit. And
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
but then Andy Hardy goes to the stock and New York Stock and Exchange Company. It's a very generic
Yeah, just a generic
company
broker firm.
brokerage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets there and he waits for the boss. But that's when he first meets Miss Hicks, and she's kind of flirty with him, and they're kind of flirty with each other. He eventually arrives, the big boss, to meet Andy Hardy. Says he's not interested in hiring him. He's already hired his nephew. But Miss Hicks feels bad, decides to, and then decides to go take Andy Hardy show him to the drugstore where he had paid for some sandwiches to get his change. And then over the course of the night, kind of befriends him and gets her hooks kind of synced into him. She does let him go at the end, which is interesting. But Andy Hardy really can't quite shake her. And then the rest of the next like 30 minutes or so of the movie, Andy Hardy's unemployed and he's desperately seeking employment and he cannot find a job for the life of him. And he very quickly blows through all of his money and he becomes very close to becoming he's almost homeless. Like he's very close to like being without a place to stay. And then he meets Jimmy again. And Jimmy is living on the street. He says, you know what? Why don't you come up? We're going to sneak you into my room and we're going to like just live together. You can't be out here on the street. Very quickly, Jimmy gets an audition and turns out Miss Hicks says, hey, Andy Hardy, I'm here to see you. There is now a job opening up as an office boy. You're going to come work for our stock exchange. And so he gets there and he starts working and starts going out with Miss Hicks while Jimmy pursues his dance. That's like probably over half of the movie has happened up until this point, like probably like 60% of the movie. And then things start to get pretty dark as the relationship with Miss Hicks and Andy develops, as Betsy keeps getting pushed further back and back and back with Andy Hardy, as Judge Hardy eventually makes his way into the scene, into New York. It gets really interesting. Like I really do find that some of the most compelling part of any of this entire series.
Completely
because
agree,
we're starting to see Andy Hardy become an adult in the worst ways. And there's no worse way than when Jimmy is found dead in their hostel.
Yeah.
And I did not see that coming.
No,
I
it
had
comes
no
out
idea
of
that we were going to
nowhere.
do. And
It's nuts.
there's an incredible scene that's pretty similar to the Polly scene with Betsy, where it's Betsy and Andy Hardy, and they're talking about Jimmy's death. And it's like a real scene. Like these are like scenes that feel like, we really bring this series down to reality with this. These are scenes about real human feelings that everyone's going through, especially when you're turning 18 and you're learning about the world, you're learning about love, and you're learning about death, and you're learning about friendship and work and money and all of this. It's a very these little moments are very, they're very mellow. They're not very extravagant, but they're very poignant. I think they're very profound in their own ways, in a way that I don't think Andy Hardy had really been. I mean, we get a little bit of that in Spring Fever, but not to this level, not taken with this amount of like seriousness. And I think
I
at least I don't know, with mainly with Andy Hardy's character, you do have that moment, I guess, when they thought their mother was dying and but she doesn't die. It happens here.
And it's even
Like-
like with the horse in the Hardys
West.
out west, you think that the horse is gonna die because of Andy's foolish antics, but it doesn't. Like this is like, it's not like a fake out. It's like this boy is dead. And
this literal boy is dead.
Yeah.
Like
I agree, Cody.
the thing, I guess, what I find most interesting about this franchise or like this series of films is that when it deals so heavily with the topic of death and how you deal with that when growing up, because like I think you guys might like this movie a bit more than I do, and I don't dislike this movie at all. Like I still like Life Begins, but it reminds me a little bit of, it has a lot more to offer than out west with the Hardys, or the Hardys Out West. But it's like that scene with the horse is that one really good pocket of that movie that I like. And I'm kind of, well, that movie has problems with racism that no one can excuse. And, so I'm not a huge fan of everything that surrounds that. I mainly really like this last little pocket of this movie, but like, oh my God. I mean, like we were talking about it comes out of nowhere, but I mean, it gets back to like the type of imagery that I thought was really thoughtful in Judge Hardy and Son and Andy Hardy Gets Spring Fever, where like he's just completely cast in shadows, and like you only see like a stiff hand of Jimmy. But I was like, oh my God. And like,
Yeah.
and then you hear like Andy belt, like help, he's just calling out for help. And so, and I found all that to be very, very moving. And then it gets even more heartbreaking because everyone thinks that it's a suicide. And then the doctor looks at him and he's like, no, well, he actually had I think a bad heart condition. And
Bad
he
Like his
heart
got,
a
condition.
bad heart valve or something.
yeah, and he got so excited. He got the job, right? Is that, or he didn't? I forget.
Yeah.
He was so excited that he got the job that he like overworked his heart and died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is even more tragic in a way.
Yeah.
And then the doctor looks at Andy. He's like, well, you knew him. Do you want to handle the funeral? And Andy's like,
Yes.
yes, I guess I'll have, he does it. He does it because he had that relationship with Jimmy, even though it was like a newly founded relationship.
But he
But I
doesn't
just really
have
wish there was
money.
more of that too.
And it's like he
Um,
doesn't have money. He's dealing with somebody that he's dealing with death
mhm.
really for the first time.
For the first time in a very real way.
In a very
Mhm.
real way, and he also is insistent on paying for this boy's funeral out of pocket and refusing for Betsy to help
help.
him at all with the funeral. And he doesn't have, his car is impounded. He can't pay for lodging for another week because he he said he gets paid $10 a week, and so like lodging
Lodging's
is
like
five
almost
a week.
5 plus like, plus laundry.
Laundry.
It sounds like it's closer to 6. But
Yeah.
it's like, so that's a lot of your income right there.
Yeah.
Granted, you could live like on 25 cents a day pretty easily back then. Can you
It's true,
imagine?
yeah.
Before
Yeah, I know. When they found a
everything-
quarter, and he's like, "Oh boy, let's get us both something to eat."
Yeah, Jimmy says we can eat for 3 days on a quarter.
On a quarter.
Before the movie got dark and depressing, I thought it would be funny, if Andy Hardy knew of a little song called "Ain't It Fun" by Paramore. But then it got really depressing. I was like, well, maybe that one wouldn't fit. That joke wouldn't fit quite as well.
What's interesting though is after Jimmy's death, the movie still gets to we had talked about it before with Miss Hicks, but like when it's revealed that she's still married and is separated from her husband, and her extravagant lifestyle is just her riling up all these like spending accounts, and he enters her apartment late at night to take the fur coat that she bought. His reaction to Andy and what he tells Andy is pretty interesting. He's not mad at Andy. He's not angry at Andy at all. He just says, "Good luck, son." Like that's like, dang. He's not even upset that this man's about to have, or this 18-year-old's about to have sex with his wife. He's like, "Good luck. She's terrible."
Yeah, and she's taken all my money. He said he's like spent so much of his money that he's like in crippling debt. Which is funny when like Andy earlier, when he first meets her, he buys her like really expensive perfume. I went to my trusty Andy Hardy tool, the inflation calculator, and the perfume would be about $300 in today's money. Yeah, which is, there are a lot of $300 perfumes nowadays even, but yeah, that's like really high end perfume that they're selling at a drugstore, which is surprising. But
they had TJ Maxx back then. That would have been the way
they
to
didn't
go.
have TJ Maxx back
You can
then.
get some good deals on perfume and cologne at TJ Maxx. I'm a famous Maxinista. A lot of people don't know that about Cody.
Maxinista.
A podcast 43 shopping haul with
Oh,
Cody
man.
Workman.
We could do it.
If only they sold movies at TJ Maxx.
Y'all,
I
no,
know.
they didn't sell. They did sell some DVDs like way back in the day at Bell's Outlet. They used
I
to
don't even
sell
know what that is.
DVDs.
Bell's Outlet.
Oh wow! I bought a 4-pack of Clint Eastwood comedies for $6 once.
Oh,
And
wait,
it
we
was
had a Bell's in our town, Chris. I won't say where for privacy's sake, but we did have one.
yeah, no, they have them. They have them all over. They
It
still
wasn't
have them.
it wasn't big. I think it's still there actually.
Is it? It's like a green storefront kind of. It's like green.
Well,
I thought
there's
it was
Bell's and there's
blue.
Bell's Outlet. You can get.
Oh, are you
there's,
thinking of
know-
Belk? Belk?
No, I'm not thinking of Bells. Bells.
Maybe-
like
In a roundabout way, I think I'm thinking about Belk.
I definitely
I
are thinking about.
see.
But Belk is. Hey, I got some good. There's some good. They definitely don't sell DVDs at Belk.
No, I was gonna say.
That's not Bells. Oh, jeez.
My
Well,
bad.
Well, nonetheless, Andy at the end of this film, he realizes that he's sick of New York and he wants to become a mechanic for the summer and then work in the shop in Carvel and go to law school and
He
then that's
becomes
how it just
Handy Andy.
He should just be a
naturally
mechanic.
Handy Andy.
Yeah.
That has a
Handy
whole new
dandy.
meaning after watching The Dead Don't Hurt.
Oh my gosh.
That's for our Vigo heads out there.
Yeah, for Vigo heads. Yeah, I mean, it was. I thought this was a good one. This is definitely in the topper echelon of the Andy Hardy films. I will say, when I was about at the halfway point, I was like, this could be as good as Love Finds Andy Hardy, but it really did kind of squander that potential in a little bit in the end. Didn't really stick the landing, but still very good. I really don't think that we'll find anything as good as Love Finds Andy Hardy. I think that's like
Oh.
searching for something that is better than that is like my white whale, but I don't know if it's gonna happen.
I don't think it
y'all
will.
be surprised by my picks.
I
At the
do
end of
think
everything.
I do.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with you, but I do hope the series does continue getting this weird. Like this
Yeah.
is the type. This
Yeah,
is what
that's true.
This is what. This is what the series really needed after Private Secretary. Like this is what we want the movies to kind of get to a point where Andy Hardy's growing up and experiencing these things, and we're starting to see him react to this. I
Yeah.
quite like how this goes. I'm interested to see what's next. If he's really
for
going
sure.
to war, I can't wait.
I guess as one final thing, which I thought was interesting, is Life Begins was actually more profitable than Private Secretary. Not by like a ton, but about like 15. No, because Andy Hardy's Private Secretary is 185.1 million, and Life
Mm.
Begins was 204.3 million.
I think people just
That's
really
that's
want.
that's significantly more.
Yeah.
Bolton.
Yes,
You
this
said not-
is true. Yeah, my bad.
He-
And when I was looking at this, is a little confusing of a spreadsheet I have in front of me, but
Andy wants.
Yeah, I'm
pe-
sorry.
People want Andy in the Big Apple. They love when Andy. They wanted to see Andy go back to New York, and that's why it made a little more. But as far as next week, we're going to be covering The Courtship of Andy Hardy from 1942, directed by George B. Seitz, and Andy Hardy's Double Life from 1942, directed by George B. Seitz, not George V. Seitz. That's his brother that took over briefly. No, yeah, Andy Hardy's Double Life, which has it apparently has Esther Williams, who was some moderately famous person at the time because she's on the poster and they make a big deal about her, but I don't know who this is. Oh, she seems to be.
Isn't she
Oh wait, she was I mean, she seems to be in a lot of like
Musical.
musicals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's a
yeah.
musical actress. Yeah, she
Yeah.
yeah, I'm blanking on, I don't have any technology in front of me, but yeah, I recognize the name. I'm gonna say like in like Ziegfeld Parade or so, or they made Ziegfeld or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she seems to be very prominent in the That's Entertainment films, which are those compilation films that
Yes.
MGM put out about their musicals, and so. Um, well, yeah, I guess that's what we have to look forward to next week. But until then, stay wavy.
Stay safe.
And keep on keeping on.
Mickey Rooney!
Hi, Millhouse. The studio sent me to talk to you, being a former child star myself and the #1 box office draw from 1939 through 1940.
Wow, spanning 2 decades.